Welcome to the Rock Ag Podcast. This is your host, Garrett Coffey, Ag and Natural Resource Agent for the University of Kentucky in Rockcastle County. Today we will be joined by Dr. Ric Bessin, Extension Entomologist, to discuss fall invaders such as lady Asian beetles and brown marmorated stink bugs, and talk about how that we can control those once we have those in our home, and also, more importantly, how to prevent those insects from coming into our home in the fall. Thanks for joining us today, Dr. Bessin. I have decided that with the fall we've had, myself personally, I've seen several of our invaders that invade our home in the fall, some ladybugs, some brown marmorated stink bugs, a few things like that. So I thought it would be a good idea to get you on today and talk about why we're seeing them and just kind of go through what to do with them and that kind of thing. First question I would like to ask is, why do we see these in the fall?
Okay. And what we're talking about these, the two most common ones that we see coming into the home in the fall would be the brown marmorated stink bug, so that big brown stink bug. And then several weeks later, we see the Asian lady beetle comes into the home. So those are the two. Now, why are they coming into our homes? The reason is they're looking for a sheltered place to spend the winter, a sheltered / protected place to spend the winter. So, our homes are sheltered. They're generally nice and warm. They're not going to get frozen and things like that. So they're real good places. Now, one thing they found with the brown marmorated stink bug is its natural place to look for shelter during the winter would be some of these dead tree trunks. These standing dead trees and the logs on the ground. You peel the bark back and you can find the stink bugs. They've actually trained dogs to go out and look for the stink bugs, and those are the locations that they're looking for, and our houses are a nice substitute for them. So they're looking for places to spend the winter.
Okay. So, I think a lot of times we see them in attics and kind of getting into that insulation, those warm attics, I think, and you see them coming down through light fixtures and that kind of thing. So I guess that's why we're seeing them, is that they're looking for those warm places to stay. Are they going dormant in that situation?
Sort of.
Okay.
In that, when they get into the home, the brown marmorated stink bug, they actually have a chemical scent, and they gather. They sit in clusters. And so, it could be a cluster in someone's air conditioner in their window. It could be behind a book on a bookshelf. You pull the book back and you find 25 or 30 stink bugs there. We've seen them, in masses in people's chimneys where they come down the chimney, but they cluster up. But once they do that, what I've seen in about midwinter, they start to become more active in the house. Some of their food reserves in their body are starting to diminish, get worn down. I start to see them flying around. I happen to have a house. I'm blessed with a house that the stink bugs love. So I see about 3,000 stink bugs a winter in my house. And so it's given me a lot of experience with how they behave. And about midwinter, I start to see them get more active. They go to house plants in the house. They start flying to windows. They fly to lights in the living room when we're trying to read a book or something like that. But about midwinter, they get more active.
Okay.
So they are sort of dormant, but they do their activity increases on warm days.
Okay. So the main thing is that when you see these, are they doing any damage to our houses? Are they doing any damage to us? Do they bite? Do they sting? Are they eating our wood? Are they doing termite damage? What are they doing in there?
Okay, let me answer that in terms of the good and the bad with these guys.
Okay.
The good is they're not breeding in the house. For the most part, they're not doing any feeding in the house. So they're not ruining wood. They're not like termites. They're not getting into the foods in your pantry. They're not producing young and breeding. They're just surviving in your house. And so that's a good thing. Now, the invaders we have do not have stingers. So they're not like wasps and bees, and they don't have venom like spiders and things like that. I made the mistake years ago. I told people, don't worry about the Asian lady beetle, it doesn't bite. And I got a number of phone calls about that. So they do bite, but it's more like, I just landed on something I'm going to taste to see if I like it. And so they may pinch you a little bit with their bite, but it's not like they're feeding, and it's not like a mosquito bite or something like that. But yeah, they will taste things that they land on. I have to say they're just stupid insects.
Right, right. Okay. So after I've worked in extension for several years, and I was in ag sales prior to that, is that I could almost mark my calendar by this time of year that I get these calls and go, how can I get rid of these stink bugs? How can I get rid of these ladybugs? What can I do for them? And most of the time, what they're looking for is a pesticide that they can spray to take care of that. But I think that that's kind of a touchy subject and really not very effective, I think. So kind of talk about how can we get rid of them, and then we'll move on to how we can prevent them
Okay.
on the next one.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's two different things. One, you got them in your house, you got to deal with them. The other is, okay, I've had problems in the past. How do I prevent the problems in the future?
Right.
Now, when it comes to pesticides, we do recommend pesticides for people that have had problems in the past. And those tend to be the barrier things to help them from getting into the house to begin with. But once they're in the house, let's say you got a 500 of them in a mass up in your attic, the last thing you want to do is kill them with a pesticide. And the reason is you kill them, they fall down and they're dead. You think, great, that solved that problem. But then you start to get carpet beetles and flies that move in to start feeding on those carcasses. And it creates other problems. When you kill bugs and you leave them in your house, that can create additional problems. If they get into the wall void and die there, you can end up with other insect problems in the house. And so we try and recommend against spraying them with pesticides in the house. What we do recommend is, if you have them in the house, find a vacuum cleaner. Get and suck them up with the vacuum cleaner. People are worried, they have to go through lots of vacuum cleaner bags. The trick is you put a piece of pantyhose in the throat of the vacuum cleaner, so when you suck them up, they end up in that net, and then you can just dispose of that net, and you don't have to go through all the bags with your vacuum cleaner. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to try and sweep them up. So the lady beetles and the stink bugs, the lady beetles have reflex bleeding. If you touch them, they tend to ooze this yellowish brown fluid. The stink bugs, if you step on them, they will squish this yellow brownish fluid. And so they stain, they stink. So the best thing to do, if you see them in the house, vacuum them up. And then start to think about, okay, I've had these problems this past year or these past few years. What can I do to prevent that in the future?
Okay. One thing that you mentioned, like the great idea about the pantyhose and the vacuum cleaner too. That's great. I'd never thought of that before, so that's really good. One other thing is that you mentioned a while ago that you have a house that stink bugs love. So why do they like your house, but they don't like your neighbor's house? Why is that?
Oh, I don't know. Well, one thing is, I guess I'm an amateur horticulturist. And so I have a small orchard in my yard, which is the food for these stink bugs during the year. So, I have apple trees, peach trees, pear trees, all these things. I got a big vegetable garden in the backyard. They like that. I don't spray a lot in my yard, being an entomologist. And then in the fall, I got the redbud trees and all these other trees that they can go to and feed on those seeds. I think I just, for stink bugs, my yard is probably the Garden of Eden.
Okay, I understand. So it's more about your habitat that you live in as opposed to your house.
Yeah, my house just happens to be there.
Yeah, they're not attracted to wood siding or white vinyl siding or anything like that. It's more kind of where your house is.
Yeah, but there is one thing. they tend to get on the house late in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, right up until the sun goes down. And houses that have more southwest exposure, where they get that direct sunlight in the afternoon, are also going to have more of the stink bugs.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So, how can we prevent these stink bugs from coming in?
Okay, well, first thing I want to say is it doesn't matter what you do if you get it on late. So all these preventive practices have to be on before they start their movement into our homes. Now
So, give me a time on that.
with the brown marmorated stink bug, since I have this home that I've been following them for years, it's about the 1st of September that they start moving into the home. Then the Asian lady beetle, it's about mid-October when
Okay.
they come in.
Okay. So what you're saying is this is a good summer project to start doing these preventative measures.
Yes, yeah, and then you need to be ready for them to move in by the 1st of September.
Okay.
If you get it on the 15th of September, doesn't matter what you do because they're already in the house.
They're already there. Yes. Yeah.
So the best treatments don't work if you don't get them up on time.
Okay. So
And
go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, what they can do for prevention. There's a few things. One is what we call pest proofing homes, making sure cracks and crevices are sealed around the home. Putting up hardware cloth, where you have ventilators to the attic and things like that. Sealing windows and making sure the window screens are good, that you've caulked properly around the windows and doors. We need to seal all those entry points coming into the house. Both the lady beetle and the stink bug like entering the home higher up on the home. So think about places where they can get in up under the eaves, around the attic. If you have a second floor home, those upper floor windows are going to be prime places for them to try and find ways to get in the home. So that's the first step, is just pest proofing your home. If people are interested, we have an excellent fact sheet available on the UK entomology website on how to pest proof their homes. The second thing is, if they've had reoccurring problems with these and they want to use an insecticide, there are what we call barrier insecticide treatments that can be used around the outside of the home. There's some very specific things that you need to do with that, but up underneath the eaves, around the soffits, those are places where the stink bugs are going to congregate, and you can get some control with some of those barrier sprays.
Okay. So there are some good insecticides that will work to help prevent that.
Yeah. There's a number of good ones. Yes. And so just go to the local garden center or hardware store, look for insecticides that are labeled for use as barrier sprays around the outside of homes.
Okay.
Most of those are going to be pyrethroids, and all those pyrethroids are very effective against the stink bug.
Okay. That sounds good. Do you have anything else that you would like to add as far as how to help with these fall invaders? And, are we seeing any new invaders that we might watch for or anything like that?
Well, I think those two are the primary fall invaders, but we do have some other insects that get into the house at different times of the year. One group would be the millipedes. They're not truly insects. They're thousand-leggers, but in the summer, occasionally we do see large numbers trying to get into homes. With that insect, they really like moisture. They can be driven when we have high temperatures or dry conditions, or even flooding can move them towards structures. And when they do come, they can come by the thousands. Some of the things that have really helped with some of the millipedes, making sure that you have good sweeps underneath your door. These are coming very low on the foundation. making sure cracks and crevices in your foundation are caulked and well sealed. And even with your garage and your garage door, making sure you have a proper door sweep underneath your garage. If they do get into the home, they die very quickly. Our homes are much too dry for them, but still you end up with a number of dead carcasses in the home that can be a problem. But a lot of times it's just making sure that we don't have the pathways where they can enter into our homes.
Okay. Well, Dr. Bessin, if you don't have anything else for us, we appreciate you joining us today. As always, I always like to give a shout out for our extension resources. We have tons of fact sheets, and if you have any question of what kind of bug you have in your home, if I can't identify it, I can usually shoot you a quick picture and we can get that identified and make sure that what we're dealing with first, and we can get you a lot better prognosis that way. So we appreciate you joining us, and thanks for being on.
Okay, it was great.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Rock Ag Podcast. If you would like more information on the content of this podcast, please contact Garrett Coffey at the Rockcastle County Extension Office. Make sure and like, subscribe, and share this podcast.